we will give hormone stimulation, FSH, LH, feedback effect to gonadotropin releasing hormone. Gonadotropin releasing hormone will decrease and the effect will rebound, decrease FSH, LH. It's for the key periods of childhood without menstruation. Initiation of puberty. Смотрим. Childhood. У нас extra sensitive feedback, да? During puberty, decrease sensitive of feedback, the same. But sensitive of feedback decrease only. So organism prepare, да, prepare to menstruation, to stabilized axis, cortex, hypothalamus, hypophysis, ovary, and uterine. Reproductive period. Reproductive. Hypothalamus, high levels of gonadotropin releasing hormone. It's genetical determination in chromosome. Hypothalamus should activity during reproductive period. Gonadotropin releasing hormones, rate, activate, pituitary gland. Pituitary gland produce FSH, LH. FSH, LH stimulate produce estrogen and progesterone by ovary. And feedback increased. No, for example, what is increased feedback, what is decreased feedback? Да, some person was sleeping, not sleeping. Example, if we will give patient oral contraceptive drug, in which level effect oral contraceptive drug? Which level we will block by replacement therapy? Contraceptive is estrogen and progesterone. Which level? Uterus, ovary, hypothalamus, hypophyseal cortex. Ovary. So block will be here only. What will the effect for FSH, LH in the blood? If not produced by ovary, not produced natural hormone, that patient get by drug, what will be with FSH, LH? Increase. Very good, increase. Not estrogen, FSH increase. Not progesterone, LH increase. Not have, increase. И потом decrease amenorrhea. That is why level of hormones in replacement therapy should be adequate. Or can be effect of absolute amenorrhea after not using drug. It's individual test for using replacement therapy. That is why if we will get FSH, LH higher, so patients without oral contraceptive drugs, we understand natural estrogen and progesterone very low. Organism, что эффект to stimulate produced by ovary estrogen, progesterone. Это понятно, да? Хорошо. Так, давайте пременопауз. Пременопауз. Где будет эффект пременопауз? Там то же самое. In ovary, no follicle. All follicle loss. No follicle, not estrogen. That is why low level of first progesterone after the estrogen. Why low level progesterone? Anovulatory the first. Anovulatory cycle. The first. Low level progesterone after that, low level of estrogen. And the effect, what effect? High FSH, LH. High FSH, LH, first of all, activate releasing hormone produced by hypothalamus and climacteric effect. What? Not good sleeping, да? Crying, emotion disbalance, да? And many other things. Edema, psycho-emotional status change. It's effect of higher self-regulation menstrual cycle, cortex and hypothalamus. Немножко понятно, по чуть-чуть. This topic very difficult, но это надо понимать. You should understand. during menopause, block absence of cyclical ovary, no to release of estrogen progesterone. Pituitary gland highest level, in 100 times highest, and high level of the non-fertility. So that's during menopause. No, that is very low risk of cancer. If not problem with supervision. Patient hasn't, допустим, virus cancer, papilloma virus has no risk of cancer. Да. Можно дальше? Так, давайте мы сейчас еще фильм и отдохнущий, да? With the break? With the break у нас? Сейчас будем голосовать. Давайте,
To understand the various ways that medical science can assist reproduction, it is important to understand how the reproductive system functions in both sexes, because the cause of infertility often lies equally with both men and women. The main players in the female reproductive cycle are the pituitary gland, the ovaries, and the uterus. Their activities are closely coordinated. Each month, one or other ovary releases a single egg, an event known as ovulation. It is brought about by a series of complex interactions between the pituitary gland, the ovaries, and the uterus. The pituitary gland is itself under the control of this small area of the brain known as the hypothalamus. A new menstrual cycle begins when the nerve cells of this center secrete a hormone called gonadotropin-releasing hormone, GnRH, into the network of blood vessels which surrounds the pituitary gland. Stimulated by pulses of gonadotropin-releasing hormone, cells in the pituitary gland secrete another hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH. FSH travels in the bloodstream, reaching the ovaries. There it stimulates the formation and growth of an ovarian follicle in one or other ovary. The follicle consists of an egg, a number of surrounding cells which secrete estrogen hormones, and fluid. FSH helps the egg to mature and prepares it for release. As the follicle matures, the hypothalamus increases secretion of GnRH. This in turn stimulates the pituitary to secrete a second hormone which acts on the ovary. This is luteinizing hormone, or LH. Toward the middle of the cycle, there is a sudden peak in the blood level of LH. This acts as the trigger for ovulation. Within minutes of its release, the egg is guided by suction through the fringed opening of the outer end of the fallopian tube, starting it on a journey which will take 5 or 6 days as it passes down the tube and finally reaches the cavity of the uterus. Meanwhile, after the follicle ruptures, it is converted into this yellowish body known as the corpus luteum. Cells of the corpus luteum secrete the hormone progesterone, which brings about important changes in the lining of the uterus, preparing it for possible pregnancy. In fact, the lining of the uterus, known as the endometrium, undergoes changes in response to hormone levels during the cycle. In the first half of the cycle, known as the follicular phase, the developing follicle secretes increasing amounts of estrogen hormone, which encourages regeneration of the endometrium. After ovulation, there are important changes in the endometrium, aimed at making it suitable to receive a fertilized egg. These changes are brought about by a secretion of progesterone from the corpus luteum. The secretion of progesterone is maintained for several days, but if the egg is not fertilized in that time, the corpus luteum withers, and falling levels of progesterone and estrogen trigger the shedding of the uterine lining as the menstrual flow. The cycle then starts again. But if the egg is fertilized, no menstruation occurs, as the corpus luteum continues to function, secreting progesterone during the first 3 months of the pregnancy. Thereafter, numerous changes occur to support the developing embryo. To understand the various ways that medical science can assist reproduction, it is important to understand how the reproductive system functions in both sexes, because the cause of infertility.
Some minutes break, сколько? 3 минуты, наверное, да? Сейчас.